If you're thinking about buying a big-name bike this year, stop. Because some of the most legendary motorcycle brands on Earth are collapsing in real time. Sales are crashing. Parts are vanishing. Resale values are in freefall. Riders are getting stranded. Dealerships are ghosting, and brand loyalty, once sacred, is turning into regret. And here's the truth. We're not even at the bottom yet. The last brand on this list isn't just struggling. It's barely breathing, dragging a century-old legacy down with... Let's start with the brand that once defined rebellion itself, the one that made the open road feel like religion, Harley-Davidson. The fall of the American dream for decades, Harley wasn't just a motorcycle brand. It was a movement. The sound, the chrome, the culture. A symbol of American identity roaring down highways from LA to Lisbon. Owning a Harley meant you belonged to something bigger than speed. You belonged to a brotherhood. Thunder beneath you, freedom ahead. But in 2025, that dream is cracking, under the weight of its own legend. What used to be the working-class dream of the open road now costs a small fortune. Entry-level models start around $13,000. And by the time you add freight, dealer fees, and basic upgrades, you're staring at $17,000, $18,000. That's before even glancing at Harley's flagship touring line, Street Glides, Road Glides, Ultras, all pushing past $40,000. Harley's no longer selling freedom. It's selling nostalgia at luxury prices. Meanwhile, competitors have evolved. Yamaha, Honda, Indian. They've embraced modern tech, liquid cooling, traction control, and digital interfaces. Harley? Still pushing air-cooled Milwaukee 8s with analog dials dressed as heritage. The rumble still thrills until you realize the world has moved on. And maybe the harshest truth? Harley's identity no longer attracts new riders. Young bikers don't want to inherit someone else's rebellion. They want their own. The Livewire could have been Harley's rebirth, an all-electric beast with futuristic edge. But its $30,000 price tag and short range killed the buzz before it began. The Revolution Max engine showed real promise, but instead of transforming the lineup, Harley let it sit alone, surrounded by an aging fleet. Harley isn't dying because it changed. It's dying because it didn't. You can survive bad pricing. You can survive old tech, but when your legend becomes your prison, you start to rot from within. Indian, the comeback that cut too deep. Indian's rebirth should have been a fairy tale. A legend reborn from the ashes. Modern machines with old-school soul. And backed by Polaris, it had the funding, the muscle, and the momentum to rival Harley for the crown. But every brand has a soul, and Indian quietly amputated part of its own. In early 2023, dealers received a memo. The iconic multicolor Native American headdress logo was being retired. In its place, a monochrome, modernized symbol. Corporate spin called it cultural sensitivity. Riders called it betrayal. That logo wasn't just branding. It was the bridge between generations. To lifelong Indian riders, it was identity, history, pride. Removing it felt like erasing the heartbeat that had kept the brand alive for a century. The reaction was instant and brutal. Forums exploded. Social media erupted. Dealers were stuck in the middle, watching loyalty dissolve overnight. At the same time, Indian was gaining traction with the Scout Bobber and FTR, bikes loved by younger riders for their raw edge. But that demographic is hyper-aware. They can smell inauthenticity. The logo change exposed a brand that wasn't sure of itself anymore. And with a smaller dealer network than Harley or Honda, Indian relies heavily on loyalty. Lose that and there's nothing left to fall back on. The bikes still ride beautifully. But image drives identity, and identity drives survival. If Indian doesn't find its footing fast, its second rise could end just like its first, buried under the weight of hesitation. KTM, the empire that grew too fast. KTM once embodied European aggression. Orange, loud, unapologetic. The off-road king that conquered every championship worth winning. But in 2024, the headlines hit like a crash. Purer Mobility AG, KTM's parent company, filed for self-administration, the corporate version of life support. Factories slowed. Budgets froze. Hundreds of workers laid off. And confidence evaporated. KTM's problem wasn't passion. It was overreach. They built too many bikes for markets that never materialized. Warehouses filled, cash ran dry, and dealers sat on mountains of unsold inventory. Without its previous Indian manufacturing alliance, costs spiked, margins vanished. Even racing victories couldn't mask the bleeding. KTM bet big, but not sustainably. And when the economy tightened, the brand that once bragged ready to race was barely ready to survive. Norton, the betrayal of a legacy. If Harley's downfall is about aging and KTM's about overreach, Norton's is about betrayal. This was once Britain's pride. Silver tanks, snarling engines, the cafe racer dream. But under Stuart Garner, Norton became a disaster. Misused pensions, unpaid orders, missing bikes. The scandals shredded the name. By 2020, Norton collapsed in disgrace. TVS Motor Company bought the remains, promising a fresh start. New factories, new management, new hope, but you can't buy back trust. The new V4 SV superbike was supposed to rewrite history, but endless delays and low output kept it a ghost product. Parts remain scarce, dealers rare, loyalists. TVS has money. Norton doesn't have time. Reputation burns slower than engines, and Norton's may be out of fuel. Mitsubishi, the brand time forgot. Most riders don't even know Mitsubishi once made bikes, but in the post-war boom, under the Silver Pigeon name, it did. Solid, reliable, and everywhere in Japan. Then it simply stopped. No collapse, no scandal, just quiet extinction. While Honda, Yamaha, and Suzuki went global, Mitsubishi pivoted to cars and never looked back. By the 1980s, the motorcycle division had vanished without a word. Rumors of an electric comeback have floated for years. Concept sketches, patents, whispers, but in 2025, there's nothing concrete. Mitsubishi's motorcycle legacy is dust in a museum, fading with time. No tragedy, no outrage, just forgetting. Sometimes brands don't die with a crash. They just stop being remembered. Moto Guzzi, the beautiful decline, and now, the most heartbreaking of all, Moto Guzzi. Founded in 1921, still building by the shimmering shores of Lake Como, the oldest factory still running in its original location. A living monument to Italian craftsmanship, passion, and soul. But today, it's fading. Less than 10,000 bikes a year leave its gates. Dealers are disappearing. Parts take months. The fan base loyal but aging. For decades, Guzzi stuck with the same air-cooled 90-degree V-twin. Beautiful, yes, but outdated. While rivals like BMW and Triumph evolved, Guzzi stood still. When it finally modernized, the V100 Mandello brought liquid cooling, ride modes, cornering ABS. It was too little, too late. A glimpse of what could have been. The Piaggio Group funds Guzzi, but focus stays on Vespa and Aprilia, the money makers. Guzzi survives out of heritage, not business logic. Riders still describe their Guzzis as soulful, torque with personality, imperfection with charm. But passion doesn't pay payroll. The community is shrinking, and when it finally fades, it won't be a scandal. It'll be silence, a soft goodbye from a brand that never truly learned how to live in the future. The coming storm. These aren't isolated failures. They're the symptoms of an industry at a crossroads. An aging audience, a changing economy, a new generation that values innovation over nostalgia and authenticity over heritage. Some brands will adapt, others will vanish quietly, leaving behind chrome ghosts and flickering memories on dusty garage walls. So before you buy the badge, before you sign for a dream, ask one question. Will this brand still exist when I'm ready to sell it? Because the next wave of collapses isn't about bad bikes. It's about bad timing. And timing, in this industry, is everything.